Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you are doing great and taking care of yourself. It has been a long time I haven't uploaded any content on my YouTube channel. Let me tell you one secret. I have been missing you all and looking for your comments after I upload this video. Before we start to the main video, let me wish you a very happy Dasera to all my subscribers and the viewers and who are watching this video. So today we are going to talk about an important concept in Terraform called Terraform workspace. If you are looking for a DevOps role or giving an interview for the DevOps engineer, knowing this concept is very important and will help you to crack the interview if the interviewer asks this question like what is a scenario where you will be using a Terraform workspace. So without much further delay, let's get into the main video. So let me start sharing a screen. So let's first understand the theoretical perspective of what is Terraform workspace, and then we will be getting into a small demo that how does uh, or I would say what problem the Terraform workspace solves. So let's understand the definition of Terraform, and then we'll go into the benefits from the Terraform and the Terraform commands which will help you to create a workspace, list the workspace, show the workspace, delete a particular workspace, and etc. And all these going to be in today's video in a demo. So let's first read the first definition, which is Terraform workspace. So workspaces in Terraform allow you to manage multiple states for your infrastructure, making it easier to handle different environments or instances. By this, what it means to say that it is like a multi-folder in your Windows laptop or a Mac laptop where you have your contents, and if you modify one of the content, the other content is not impacted. So every folder has its own content and its state of that, what is the state of that folder. So let's look at the problem and how does Terraform workspace solves that problem. So I'm going to basically show you a small picture where I will be walking through the workflow of what Terraform workspace solves the problem. So say for an example, you are a DevOps engineer and there are certain teams which come to you by raising a request in a ServiceNow tool or a Jira tool or a Service First tool, etc. Whatever the servicing tool you are using to suffice the request or interact with your users. So the user A comes to you and says, hey buddy, I need to create an infrastructure for my dev environment, UAT environment, and IST environment, and the configuration for that is T2 micro. I need EC2 instance to be created on the AWS cloud. So if you are already a Terraform expert, what will you do is you will basically create a module and create the different TF-vars file and package it and give it to that user in the main.tf, and he will execute and his instance will be created. This is very simple. The user B also comes with the same configuration. You don't need to write the code. You have already written the module which has main.tf, the relevant TF-var files, and you package it and give it to him and he executes and his infrastructure is up. Now, the user 3 comes to you or raise a request saying that, hey buddy, I need 3 EC2 instances to be created and for the dev, UAT, IST, and each instance is having a different configuration. So one instance is having T2 nano, one is T2 micro, one is T2 small. So what you did is you written all the TFRs file and you written a module and main.tf, and you package it and give it to him. When he goes, he executes that. But the problem here comes is that all these are having just one state file. So when he executes the package which you have given for the dev environment, the T2 Nano is created and the state file is updated. When he executes the UATTFR files, which is having T2 micro, it goes, the Terraform first goes and checks the state file and finds that there is no instance. Okay, so what Terraform does is it destroys that instance and it creates a T2 micro, right? And that's where the state file is overridden, right? And then again you come back and you start creating the Dev instance, which is T2 Nano, but you are shocked now that where did my instance went, right? Is you see that it's already destroyed, and that's where this whole overridden and the conflict comes in. The conflict can be in the situation uh, when he's trying to execute T2 Nano, T2 Micro, T2 Small in his team. There are multiple team members which are trying to access the test state file, and that's where the conflict happens, right? And the resources are also impacted, right? Because you don't have the state file, you are trying to write the same state file again and again, and you are just creating one TC2 instance, which can be either a dev, UAT, IST. To solve this problem, that's where Terraform introduced a concept called as a Terraform workspace, where each workspace will has its own infrastructure, which can be same, which can be different, and it will have its own state file. As you see in the diagram where I have mentioned that UAT will have its own state file, Dev will has its own state file, IST has its own state file. With this, the problem solved is that tomorrow, if the Dev, say you basically created a dev.tfr files with a T2 Nano, but your mind changes that I now need T2 small or T2 micro or T2 compute. So you will just modify the TFVAS file and execute Terraform apply. First, you will execute Terraform init, Terraform validate, Terraform plan to see it is picking up the latest configuration which I have updated in TFVAS file, and then you will finally execute the Terraform applies, and then your state file gets updated. But with this said, right, neither the state file of the UAT is impacted, neither the IST, because they have their own state file and the own workspaces, and they have their own resource configuration. So that's where the Terraform workspace comes into the picture, where it helps us to basically solve the problem of the state file, which is getting overridden again and again in our previous case where we discussed, and there is no conflict, right? So tomorrow, if there are three team members in your team who are trying to access or who are trying to build up the environment of UAT, IST, and Dev, there would not be a conflict because each one of the workspace will have its own state file and its resource configuration. I hope you got an gist of how the Terraform workspace has happily solved our problem of overriding the state file or the conflict of resources or the conflict of state file. Now, coming back to the benefits of Terraform. The first benefit of the Terraform is, as I mentioned, separate states for production, development, testing, environment. So in our case, we have the separate state file for dev, IST, UAT, prevents the conflicts by isolating the infrastructure changes in different workspaces. Has mentioned in the diagram or previously in my this video that tomorrow if you change the configuration from T2 micro to T2 compute of the dev, it is completely separated from your UAT and IST. So that's where the Terraform workspace solves or prevents the conflicts by isolating the infrastructure changes in different workspaces. The third, reuse of configuration across different environments with the isolated state management. As I mentioned, tomorrow, if you have the same configuration which you want to deploy it on dev, UAT, or IST, or a different configuration for different environment, like let's say SIT, SIT1, SIT2, or IST1, IST2, IST3, then production 1, production 2, you can use the same configuration file, but each of these workspace will have the different state file and which will be totally separated from each other without impacting each other. So that's a few of the benefits offered by Terraform Workspace, and uh, I hope this gave you a clear idea that when and how to use the Terraform Workspace and what are the benefits of Terraform Workspace. Now, moving to the next space, which is Terraform Workspace. We are going to have a demo session of this, but let me walk through the command before we get into the demo session. The first one is, in order to create the workspace, you need Terraform Workspace new and the name of the workspace. This all is going to get executed on the Terraform CLI, right, which I'm going to show you in a moment. The second is, if you want to see the workspace, you can use Terraform Workspace show. Tomorrow, if you want to list down the workspaces in your Terraform infrastructure, which is Terraform workspace list. Say for an example, you don't know these commands, right? And you want to take a help of it, you have Terraform workspace dash help. Um, to select a particular workspace, say I want to move from IST to dev or from dev to UAT, I will execute the command called as a Terraform workspace select name of the workspace. Don't worry, I'm going to show you this in my demo session. Moving to the next one, right? If you want to delete a particular workspace, say I want to delete the workspace of dev, right? Or a workspace of IST, all I'm going to execute the command on CLI is Terraform workspace delete and the name of that workspace. So these are certain commands which will help you to interact with the Terraform workspace. I hope you got an idea. Now, without much further delay, let's get into our demo session in a bit. So friends, let's get into the demo action. So if you see currently on the left hand side, I've created a folder called as a Terraform workspace demo, and it has main.tft, provider.tft, right? But one thing, if you see here, is called as an environment thing, which now it is pointing to the default workspace of the Terraform. How can we check that? Terraform workspace show, and the moment you see it points to the it is showing us the default variable. Now let's just execute a command called as list. In our case, there is only one workspace, and if you see it is pointing to default workspace, you see a star in front of that workspace. So now let's create the workspace. For an example, in our case, workspace dev. How are you going to create? The Terraform workspace new and the name of the workspace, which our case would be the dev, right? The moment I have executed that command, you see the environment is now changed to dev. So it has created the workspace and it has switched to that workspace dev. And if you see, if you noticed on the left hand side, we have something called as a terraform.tf state, and it is in the dev in workspace. Now let's just execute a simple demo. What I have done is I've created a variable called as env en name, and I've given a default value called as dev, and I am basically printing an output of that workspace. So let's just put this as dev workspace. Okay, I am saving this. I'm going to basically put Terraform in it to initialize it. We are not going to create anything or kind of thing. Now I'm going to basically execute Terraform validate. The moment I execute the validate, you see it should be success because we don't have any errors or kind of thing. You see it's success. Now let's do Terraform plan, and according to our workspace, it should point to dev and it should show us the environment variable dev. Let's see what happens. See, the output is now printed on the screen, and you see this workspace, this workspace of dev for the environment dev. So this is workspace of dev for environment dev. That's what we have executed. Now let's change this to UAT, okay, and see what happens, right? So what I'm going to do is the variable you have changed to work UAT, but see what it is printing in the Terraform workspace. Let's just execute plan. And you see it is still pointing to the workspace dev. So we haven't yet created the workspace of UAT. Let's see the magic once we create the workspace, what happens, right? So I'm going to basically do Terraform workspace new UAT. Okay, so now the Terraform is pointing to workspace UAT. Okay, and if I execute the list thing, it is pointing to UAT, right? So if you see here, the environment is now changed to UAT, and we have main.tf. Let's see, and if you see there are two in Terraform tf state.d. You have one for dev, one for UAT. So let's see if our Terraform workspace is pointing to UAT and is showing us a variable of UAT, right? So let's do Terraform init just to make sure that everything is initialized. We will execute validate, and now let's execute our plan. And now if you see, the workspace is pointing to UAT because we are into the UAT workspace. So that's how you can basically create the different workspaces, declare your variables, providers. You want to create EC2 instance, you can do that in using the TF var files, or you can use the variables.tf and do that. But that's how the magic of the workspace works. And when you're working in the multi-environment stuff, and where multiple configuration files are involved with the same configuration, or it can be different configuration, that's where the workspace comes into the picture. I hope this was an informative session, and if you think this has really added a value to you, do not forget to hit a like button and share with your friends and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And before logging off, do not forget to hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload such informative video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.